All that stuff was stovepiped. One company did this, one company did that. And what we've really seen is a huge transition from these companies getting together and figuring out how they can offer a full stack solution. So a customer or client can come to them and say, look, this is the information I need. I don't want to have to go 5 places to get a system to do it. I want you to be able to give it to me.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 121. Where is the drone industry headed? To answer that question, we're going to need a good analyst. Michael Blades is the research director for Frost Sullivan's Aerospace, Defense, and Security Business Unit. Frost Sullivan is a business consulting firm involved in market research and analysis, growth strategy consulting, and corporate training across multiple industries. Mike has been with Frost Sullivan for over 6 years as a market analyst and growth consultant, and has earned a master's degree in Aerospace Operations as well as an MBA. Mike is here to talk about some of the current trends shaping the industry and what decision makers need to consider. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Michael to introduce himself.
My name is Mike Blades. I am the research director for North America Aerospace and Defense practice. Well, we're actually Aerospace, Defense, and Security now, but that business unit in Frost Sullivan. Frost Sullivan is we're a market research company. Basically, our market research focuses on how we can generate growth for our clients. We have a lot of defense clients, have a lot of defense customers that use our reports for strategic planning. We do a lot of forecast models. We do a lot of forecasting of markets. So we generate reports on an annual basis, but we also deal in growth consulting. So our clients will come to us and ask us for general information, but they'll also ask us to get kind of in the weeds. So we basically have 2 avenues of revenue. One is producing content on a subscription basis, and those are our annual reports. Or some of those are things we do every year, and some of them are reports we do one-off. And then our clients who purchase a subscription get access to all those. And those reports are kind of what we like to say, a mile wide and an inch deep. Then we have growth consulting, where the client will come in with their own sort of RFP, their request for proposal, their scope for some sort of project, oftentimes just based on information that was in the mile wide and inch deep report. And they want to look at something more specifically. They want to get a little bit more granularity on certain markets. So that's when they'll come to us and they'll ask us for help in a specific area. And we'll look at something, and this time it'll be an inch wide and a mile deep. So those are kind of the 2 avenues of revenue that we have as a company. Like I said, I'm Aerospace, Defense, and Security Research Director for North America. We have offices all around the world. And we also have more than just Aerospace and Defense. We have business units that do the same thing that we do in healthcare, auto and transportation, measurements and instrumentation, food and beverage, just about any kind of market you can think of. Our company covers it with some sort of market analysis, trend analysis, and forecasting.
What type of research does your unit undertake?
Well, I'm responsible for pretty much anything drone. Some of the other business units sort of delve into it every once in a while when it comes to, say, like flying cars or drones and logistics from a commercial standpoint. But I am pretty much the point man. And the way I became the point man is because basically, as you know, and probably all the listeners know, the drone market was a specifically or almost totally a military market until about 7 years ago when DJI stormed on the scene and started making things that can fly with pretty decent cameras on them, and everybody started getting interested. So I've been at the company for 6 years. I got here in 2011, right after I retired from the Air Force after 21 years of flying planes for the government. But I was headlong into the military drone market, and all of a sudden this commercial market starts bubbling up, and it just snowballed. And all of our clients on the military side, defense contractors, start getting very interested in how they could take their technologies, their commercial off the shelf or their government off the shelf technologies, and apply those to commercial functions, or how they could partner with commercial companies, and how they could get a piece of that pie that they could see coming down the road. with defense budgets not really increasing at a huge rate and stagnating to some degree, those kind of companies have to figure out how they're going to grow their bottom lines. And there's really only two ways you can do it: sell more stuff overseas or sell more stuff to a horizontal commercial sort of market. So that's basically how I started to get into it. And I've been really responsible in our company anyway for the commercial drone market, all aspects of it ever since, and not just the aerial drones, but also the ground drones and the maritime drones.
From your perspective as an analyst, what are some of the things that you see happening in the industry?
One of the major things that I've seen, first of all, is the overhypeness of it, the fact that it was overhyped from the start. People really looked at this market from a business point of view and what can I do with these drones point of view rather than an aviation point of view. And it's two totally different things. There's just certain things you can't do with a toy aircraft that you can do with a real aircraft and vice versa. So there's distinct requirements, there's distinct specifications that you need, that something's going to fly safely with or without people on it. You're over people, you're over property, you're over buildings. You didn't have to worry about that with things on the ground. Once you enter that three-dimensional space, you have a bunch of issues. And I think part of the hype came from, we can get around those issues very quickly. Well, we found out that you really can't. There's a lot more that goes into all the stuff that's going to create a commercial drone ecosystem. So I think that's one of the main things that I saw was just the overhype. And I from the start with my market forecasting and platform forecasting and anything that has to do with drones, try to look at things from a more pragmatic perspective and understanding how the FAA works and understanding how their goal is safety and not necessarily to make money for people. So that said, unfortunately, they've been driven by some folks in maybe the wrong direction because people are looking out for their own interests rather than the interests of everybody involved in the market. So that's one thing. The other thing that I've really noticed, and I talked about this at Exponential, was the transition from a very stovepipe sort of ecosystem to more of a full stack ecosystem. So what I really noticed is that the market started out with these stacks of offerings from different companies where one company would offer the platform. So you have drone manufacturers, then you have a company that offered the sensors, a company that made software for certain portions of the operation, whether it was fleet management or flight planning, or whether it was post-processing capabilities, cloud storage and processing. All that stuff was stovepiped. One company did this, one company did that. And what we've really seen is a huge transition from these companies getting together and figuring out how they can offer a full stack solution. So a customer or client can come to them and say, look, this is the information I need. I don't want to have to go 5 places to get a system to do it. I want you to be able to give it to me. So a big push for not only companies that can offer full stack solutions, but companies that make a full stack software solution that any platform can implement so that can facilitate more services companies down the road that offer many different applications to many different requirements.
So how does all of that affect the industry? It's still growing, right?
I just don't think it's growing as fast as the hypesters would have hoped, and especially the people who threw a bunch of money into the different companies at the beginning. It's one of those things that it grows based on the adoption of the technology, and you can't really get buy-in on technology until you have proof of some sort of return on investment, especially if you're looking at something that has to do with precision agriculture and farming. You're not going to pull the wool over the eyes of hundreds of farmers that have been doing the same thing for generations. It just depends on the application you're using it for. But I think on the whole, it's not that it's shrinking. It's just not growing as fast as everyone hoped. The growth is going to be there. And obviously, a lot of that is held back by regulation. 107 was, I thought, a very good step in the right direction. And when you talk about applications like tower inspections or infrastructure inspections, those kinds of towers, infrastructure, power lines to a degree, those kinds of things that can be done in line of sight within the rules of 107, that really opened the market up for that. And I think that's why you see a lot of companies focusing on those inspections and trying to get into that niche where they're the respected company, that services company in that market. I think what we're going to see in the future, especially in that area, is a lot of automation. We talk about how many people are 107 qualified and blah, blah, blah. And, that's going to drive the market, how many pilots we have. at some point in the future, piloting a drone is going to be immaterial. It's going to be relegated to drone observer, if you will. I think most everything is going to be flight plans are pre-done. You have a drone that's in a box. Somebody wheels a box out there and you say execute, and it does whatever it's supposed to do and comes back without you really having to interfere at all. All that information is going to go back to some sort of centralized location, almost real time, where the certified inspector or surveyor or whoever it is on the other end, that's the actual professional certified person that knows what they're looking at. That's where they're going to process data and make determinations on what that data means. Because in the end, the commercial drone market is about the information you receive and how good it is, not really that much about the drones and the sensors. It's a means to an end. So
besides the hype and the smokestack effect, what other things did you observe that is affecting the direction of the drone industry today?
Well, the main number one thing that's affecting the industry is regulations. I think we're headed in a positive direction. I think it's going to be slow, but that's the way it is when you have to deal with a bureaucratic system. That's the main obstacle with regards to the drone ecosystem, I think. And the big hurdle to me in that arena is whether the Drone Innovation Act, if that goes through and states and localities and principalities, whatever you want to define them as, just local areas are allowed to make their own rules. That's going to really put a damper on the market because, it's going to do two things. It's going to, I think, reduce the growth of the market. The market will still grow, but it'll reduce the growth, the acceleration. But what it'll also do is it will make it easier, I think, for services companies to be very entrenched in certain areas. So you have a drone service company that does a lot of different applications, but they'll be central to Florida, or they'll be central to Georgia, because they'll all have their different rules, and those companies will get good at understanding all those rules. Whereas if you have something like a Measure, where they have all the different franchisees that are trained to their specifications, their qualifications that Measure has, if they're operating in different locations, that's all those different rules that you have to keep track of. It may require different kinds of training. It may require some sort of permits, paying for permits for per use, or permit, or yearly permit, or a monthly permit, however they set it up. If this comes down to where the states and the cities and the local areas can make their own rules, it's going to get to a point, I think, unfortunately, where they're going to see it just like they see speeding tickets today. It's a way to generate revenue for the city. So that's a huge obstacle to overcome. I really hope that preemption can win the day somehow. I did see some positive news earlier this month when Florida instituted that rule that said they're not going to allow any local regulations that are more restricted than the FAA or something to that effect.
Now, is there anything that has surprised you about the industry?
Well, I'm a little bit surprised that some of the companies that are hanging around are still hanging around. There's been a lot of money spent. There's been a lot of burn rates have been huge. I think some companies out there are just barely treading water, and I think we're going to start seeing kind of the dominoes start to fall probably in the next 6 to 12 months. But other than that, I can't think of anything that's been really surprising. I have to think about that for a minute. But that's the one thing I've kind of expected more companies. I mean, we've heard of a lot of layoffs and stuff at a lot of the OEMs, the smaller OEMs, because DJI is just really kind of just crushing everybody in the $4,000 and below drone market. But, the one thing I have seen lately that's really interesting to me is new platform offerings in that mid-range sort of commercial use area. Several companies announcing drones that have the longer flight times. They have a little bit more durable, a little bit more expensive, but I think people are trying to find that niche market where they can't compete with the DJIs of the world. So they're going to compete in a niche market where their drones and their services are going to be more useful to specific clients doing specific applications.
That's interesting. Now, do you see any safe plays out there? Anything that you feel fairly confident about?
I don't think there's a whole lot safe. I think DJI is safe unless they keep messing around with this whole whether their information is being sent back to China or not, or if it's accessible. I don't know if there's a lot of safe bets out there other than that. There's probably a couple of services companies. I think Sky Futures, that company is really, really doing it right. Cyberhawk as well to a degree. Obviously, both of those overseas because they got a head start on everybody. But both of them are doing the services right, looking at the right. I think Sky Future's idea of flying the flyability drones inside of things, that I think that's a very overlooked. There's a few overlooked areas, I think, that everybody's trying to figure out, how can I use my drone for precision ag? How can I use my drone for inspections? How can I use it for construction, mining, all those kind of obvious things. But these people who are going in and sort of covering this area that nobody else is doing, like the interiors of ships or the interiors of even buildings. So that area I think is cool and sort of overlooked in a niche market. But the two things that I really see from an ecosystem point of view that are really overlooked, the one is the data security. We're not doing a whole lot about making sure that the data that's flowing from the drone to the end user isn't able to just be picked off by whoever else wants it. If they do, I mean, you may say, well, who's going to want that kind of data? Well, if you have an easy way of just picking off all the data streams that come off drones, you can get all kinds of footage or all kinds of data and not have to pay for it. So even the military had problems with that when they first started flying. So security is one area, and the other area is maintenance. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of enterprise drones out there that are going to be upwards of in the tens of thousands of dollars and more. It's going to be like a car. You're not going to buy a new car. If it crashes, you're going to want to get it fixed. And there's just not a whole lot. Robotic Skies, that's got a really good start on everybody. Those are two really overlooked areas that I see opportunities in as part of the ecosystem.
Have you done any reports or coverage on the anti-drone or the drone security market?
I probably know more systems out there than anybody around. I have cataloged over 100 different systems that are counter UAS. That includes single sensor detection, multi-sensor detection, handheld RF inhibitors, drone-based capture drones like Aerospace Systems does, where they fly the automated drone, it goes and shoots a net at another drone. Those are the main types, but I'm actually working on two of them right now. One is looking at the commercial focus, and one is looking at the defense focus. I'm working on both of those right now, trying to develop a little forecast. I've seen a lot of these forecasts for the counter UAS markets. Basically, I think the market's probably between $500 million and $1 billion, and probably going to see upwards of $1 billion in the next few years. But, a lot of it's fear driven, everybody seeing all these drones being launched by ISIS with little grenades on them and stuff, and being able to just control those things, homemade even. They've got special little grenades now that they can buy and launch from them. And it's definitely a risk, and it's definitely something that needs to be, I think, dealt with. If you look at what the military has been requesting lately, every single service, Special Ops included, has been requesting better capabilities for counter UAS, and they've been spending a lot of money on it. I think early last year, the Air Force alone asked for tens of millions of dollars in extra funding just to counter the UAS threat that they're seeing. And you would think the Army and the Marines that are on the ground there would want more. So there's a lot going on there, especially on the military side. That's where a lot of the funding is being seen. There's a lot of companies that are getting seed money, venture capital. And I think I just did a little thing today that says since 2014, I could identify almost $100 million in funding for different counter drone system companies. And that was the ones that were disclosed. So you can imagine what the disclosed, they're probably another 50 to 100% more.
Now you're at InnerDrone this year. What will you be speaking about? Yeah,
I'm actually doing two sessions, and both of my sessions, I'm the moderator. So the first session is Partnerships Gone Wild, the future of the UAV industry. Basically, it's the idea of what I talked to you about before. It's how the drone ecosystem is changing from that stovepipe development of capabilities to a one-stop shop. So people who need drone services don't have to go all over and put their own stuff together. To me, it's a lot like a rental car lot where you go in and you want the capability to rent a convertible, or you might need a 15-passenger van or anything between. So you should be able to go to a drone services company and have that capability where they can do several different applications. They can use different sensors because their drones have modular sensors that can be swapped in and out, and they're not just a one-trick pony. They have several capabilities for gathering, storing, and providing the data. They have the business plan in place that already tells you who owns the data once it's done. All those kinds of things taken care of when you get there. So all you do is say, this is the information that I want. and this is how I want it. And then you're hands off, that the company takes off and does everything else for you. So that's the first panel. The second panel that I'm moderating is about counter UAS, which we just discussed. It's called Counter UAS Solutions When Drones Are Not Welcome. And we're going to be talking about basically what are the current solutions, how does detection work, what works and what doesn't, what are the laws going to be in the future, possibly to allow it or disallow, and how is that going to shape the market. So it looks like it's going to be more focused on the commercial drone solutions than the military, but those are the two panels that I'm moderating.
So putting on your analyst hat, where is the industry headed and what should we be looking for?
The regulations that we wish we had that we don't, which are, night operations and beyond visual line of sight. Beyond visual line of sight really being, to me, the catalyst that was going to drive this market. Once we're able to do that at a decent clip, that's really what's going to make us, the market, go to those, not the hype levels, but at least approaching more of the hype levels than we could have without those kinds of things. So I think that shows you where I believe the market is. If you really want to make money in the market right now, you should probably be inspecting towers and communications antennas and, I guess that's a tower, windmills, all those kinds of things that aren't going anywhere. And you can inspect them within 107 rules all day long.
Michael, is there anything that we missed that we should talk about?
The one thing we didn't hit on too much is automation. I did mention it a little bit, but other than those two areas I was talking about, to me, automation and AI, everybody talks about, is it really AI or is it not really AI? But there are companies out there that are developing systems, software systems, that allow a drone to fly in a warehouse or in a room on a military side. It learns as it goes into these rooms or into these warehouses, and it's all automated. So it takes all the information in and navigates itself through the entire area based on different sets of rules. So to me, those kinds of things, the software development, the drones can do just about anything. It's just a matter of developing the software and the algorithms and the sensors that allow them to do it all automated. And that's really another thing besides beyond visual line of sight that's really going to make so beyond visual line of sight, AI and automation together. That's the second thing. And batteries. When you can take the battery and get something that is the same size of battery that we have now that allows a quadcopter to fly 3 or 4 hours, that's gonna make the market really sing. So those three areas, I think, if those things trend up, the market trends up.
And finally, Michael, can you comment on the importance for people to have accurate, reliable information to make decisions related to the drone industry?
If you're going to be looking for information about a market and market forecasts, really, I think one of the most important things you can look at is research that has actual data in it. So when I say that, I mean surveys of what people are buying, surveys of what people are using drones for, surveys of whether companies have actually seen a return on investment for certain things. Look for those reports that have, no kidding, hard data behind them. And when you have a nascent market, that's a little difficult, but trust in those people who talk to the industry people. Don't trust in those people who sit behind a desk and crunch numbers based on some sort of formula that they created based on a different market. So that's the best thing I can say. And, if you want to just talk about anything that has to do with the drone market, my phone is always open. I'm allowed to do that in my job because it helps me as much as it helps the person I'm talking to, because usually they'll give me a little bit of insight on what they're seeing, and that helps me refine my insights.
That's it for episode 121 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Michael Haid of Frost Sullivan. I want to thank Michael for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Frost & Sullivan or want to connect with Michael, check out the website at frost.com. And remember, you can meet Michael at InnerDrone on September 6th through the 8th. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to patreon.com/Drone Radio Show. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.